Granblue Fantasy Relink is looking like an underrated game at this point, with so many fans of the RPG genre getting ready for Persona 3 Reload and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. But I would say this, do not sleep on Granblue Fantasy Relink. This game could be a lot better than anyone was expecting, especially after the demo recently dropped on the PlayStation 5. Now, I put a lot of time into this demo, playing not only the story portion and going through all of that, but also the questing portion as well. That's multiplayer. And the reasons why you should have your eyes on this game are pretty apparent as soon as you boot up the game and start playing. But before we get into that, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Nintendo Switch RPG videos, live streams, and more first. Now let's jump right back into Granblue Fantasy Relink and why I think that this is a very promising beginning for this game. Now, for those who don't know, this is from Games. They have a mobile conglomerate when it comes to the Granblue Fantasy franchise, and they've been slowly but surely moving into console gaming. We did get a fighting game when it comes to Granblue Fantasy, and they just added rollback netcode with the re-release, and it's doing really well. People are enjoying that game, but this is their actual product when it comes to Granblue Fantasy Relink. That's a big major RPG that more represents what the Granblue Fantasy is about on mobile. But it's not a mobile game, it's not a gacha game. You've got all of the characters set. It's a typical action RPG like Tales of Arise, for example, and that's a good comparison because I think there's a lot of parallels between this game and Tales, but with some pretty clear differences. But one of the things that I think that is awesome when it comes to newer end RPGs, and a big advantage that a game like Granblue Fantasy Relink has over Tales, is that there isn't any load up screen when you go to combat and you don't get put into some arena. You just start fighting right then and there, which is awesome. Tales still has the boot up, still has to go to a separate arena that's kind of closed off a little bit, whereas Granblue Fantasy Relink really feels like you're just getting right into the combat right then and there and not loading up into something else that's not the actual battle stage and right where you're fighting. So I will say that is a huge boost, unknowingly to some, but really a boost to the immersion of a type and style of action RPG. Now let's just talk about the presentation, what you see first. I think that the graphics in this game are very beautiful and nicely done, but one thing that you do notice is that obviously this is a PlayStation 4 game. You're not going to be too blown away by the actual tech in the game, the graphics itself. Now, the art style is very nice. It's very clean. It looks great, but this game isn't going to blow you away with the physics or the mechanics or how things animate or how things move in terms of the environments and how detailed they are. There's definitely other games that haven't blown away, even on the PlayStation 4. So just keep that in mind. It's not a super graphics looker. Now, there is a 4K quality mode, and there's also a performance mode on the PlayStation 5. I think on PlayStation 4 there might be, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's pretty much 1080p 60 frames per second. That's the footage that you guys are watching at this point. I didn't play in the quality mode very long, but I prefer the 60 frames per second mode with the performance. Now, when it comes to the actual animations and the look of the characters and the style, that's really good. I think that that's where this game really excels. Maybe it doesn't have the most detailed worlds, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's drawn really well. The characters look great. It's got a great sense of style and balance. Like, there's so many cool things that I can say about the presentation. I think the UI is phenomenal. Sometimes with these big action RPGs, UI can be a bit of a mess, but I'll say this, the UI in this game is very easy to navigate. Equipping weapons and items is very simple and clean. So that's exactly how I like my action RPGs, and that's exactly how I like all my games when it comes to these type of titles. So I was really blown away by how good the presentation is. I think it's very solid, and they did a great job crafting this game. Now, this game did go through some development hell at the end of the day. If you look at who was developing it first, it was Platinum Games, but then it ended up being moved over to Games Osaka, and you can still see some of the DNA in terms of how Platinum does their cutscenes, how Platinum does their scripting and story events. You can kind of see some of that in this. Now, it's still all out Osaka Games. Osaka Games definitely took over, but there's even certain combat things that remind me of Bayonetta or Astral Chain. So for example, they have dodge offsetting, where you can start up a combo, and in the middle of that combo, if you see that you want to dodge or dodge an attack, you can do that dodge, and then you can pick up right where you left off mid combo string. So it's actually pretty cool. And there's some other advanced moves in the game that I didn't expect, and some other things that are pretty unique to Platinum Games and Bayonetta Astral Chain. So for example, if you do 3 dodges in a row, the 3rd dodge will give you a lot of ending lag at the end of it. That's something that Bayonetta has, that's something that Astral Chain has, and a lot of Platinum Games titles. So that DNA is still kind of infused there in the nucleus. But speaking of the combat, let's get into that, because I think this is where this game super shines. The combat is chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on screen, so I guess that's a little bit of the presentation. Things are blowing up all over the place. You see magic effects. There's all sorts of stuff, because you have, I think, 4 to 5 party members at any point on the screen, and they're all doing different things. You've got numbers popping up. You've got different soul links to activate. There's just all this stuff's happening. But once your eyes kind of get visually used to the craziness and the madness on screen, you start to move and navigate so much better. At first, I was kind of like, okay, this is sensory overload, but after I started playing and getting used to how the characters move and spacing myself a bit more, it actually ended up becoming really cool to chain up combos, dodge offset, soul link with another character, mix and match. It was just dope to be able to go through with this in this type of game. Now, another thing that has me excited is a lot of the options with air combos as well. As you progress through the game, you will learn different types of skills, and you are able to launch people into the air like a Platinum Games action title, and you can combo them up in the air, knock them back down, and do other things, holding the square button in order to rise somebody into the air or lift them up. These are all welcomed additions. Heck, there's even certain things like the Stinger from DMC or Bayonetta where you lunge at an enemy. There's a lot of things that I really like about initiating combat and even playing defense as well. Blocking, making sure that your guard doesn't break, making sure that you space yourself around and dodge at the right time, have the right combination. And I think there's even perfect blocks. If I'm not correct, you can block it at the right time and it's not going to have a penalty on your shield, and you can react faster as well. So these are all things that I loved with the combat system when it comes down to Granblue Fantasy Relink. And I think that if the game continues to progress in the way that I see it progressing, with the different combos, with the characters, with all of that, you can have yourself a really good action RPG. But I feel that this game has a bit more potential because of the amount of characters that you can use, because of some of the different combat options, and because that nucleus or that DNA of Platinum is kind of still there with that combat, just feeling like it's a bit more, I would say, varied in what you can do, air combos, and how everything works. Now, Tails is tried and true, and this is not a competition between the two games. You can like Tails and also like this game. I'm just kind of giving you guys a little bit of compare and contrast when it comes to what one of the games does really well in comparison to something else that's probably the most similar to it. So I was very excited to kind of go through. There's extra side quests and different harder missions that you can do in the game, even within the story single player. But there's also a separate mode, or more like other things that you can do in order to power up your characters, that I really like. And this is the way. If you're going to do multiplayer in an RPG, if you're going to do multiplayer in your game, this is the way that you get it done. You let people be able to play it single player with CPUs, with your own team, and you can mix and match and try to create and get the awards, because that's what you can do in the questing mode in the village. Or you can play with your friends as well in online co-op. And that is awesome, because the online co-op, from what I saw, it's going to be really fun, especially when you start getting into the bigger and badder and tougher enemies. I think that the online co-op is going to be great. People are going to be trying to loot to find the best weapons, the best swords, playing through the story, the campaign. And then the quest apparently is going to have a ton of really difficult missions, and they're even going to add missions as well via DLC, it seems. It seems like they're going to do that. So I think that this is a very good thing that they have building here. Now, I tried out the quest mode, and the quest mode has different types of conditions to where you can get better rewards and like a S-class ranking and all of that, and it's based off of time, based off of what you do in there. They have certain challenges that you can do, and you can get that highest ranking, so there's replay value as well. but I'm very excited to see where that progresses and how you kind of use it in tandem with the single player, because it seems like the single player will have like a hub area. You can go there and use it at any point. So I think that's going to be really cool, and I really enjoy when RPGs do that. I do want to touch on one more thing that was kind of controversial with the demo. I saw some of my friends online saying that they didn't necessarily like how damage spongy the enemies were when it comes to the bosses in particular, and that's something that I've always kind of went back and forth on. I think that if you have a bad combat system and enemies are damage spongy, then it becomes kind of boring. But if you have a really innovative or unique or fun battle system and you're doing different things and the bosses have different phases and there's a lot of damage, it's not so bad, especially if you're just starting out and you don't have everything leveled up and you don't necessarily know how to play, yet you know that there's the depth to kind of exploit them a bit more and do bigger damage. I think that can actually be a good thing. Now, in the demo, I did fight a boss at the end, and yeah, it took a lot of time to actually beat him, but it was fun to figure out the patterns and to go through and what I can do to do more damage and the soul links. So it ended up being really fun. So I can see, yes, bosses definitely take a bit of time, but I can see myself getting better at the game and being able to take bosses down faster as I level up and get more comfortable with the combat and figuring out ways to do more damage overall with my tool set. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty when it comes down to this game. Exactly how good will it be? Will it be a game that rates in the 80s plus or so? Heck, can it even get a 90s? What's it looking like overall now that we've gotten a nice taste of the game via a juicy demo here? And I'd have to say this, I think that this is a solid action RPG that will probably rate somewhere in the mid 80s or so. I don't see it being too much higher than that. I don't see it being as high as like Tales, and definitely not up to the Persona level at this point. But I do think that a mid to low 80s is very much in line for Granblue Fantasy Relink, and that would be a great score considering the development issues that this game had, switching developers and kind of moving things all around. And I think that this could be the big break that Granblue Fantasy gets when it comes to becoming more of a household name for console players. Now, in Japan, in Asia, Granblue is doing incredibly well, but they've yet to break through for real when it comes to a console game in the franchise. So this could definitely be it. Now, the only thing that could be a little bit of a problem for that is the fact that it's coming out in February. Now, some people will be able to get it digital deluxe edition. You'll be able to get it, I think, like at the end of January, like January 29th or something like that. But the game physically launches for everyone on systems. That's going to be February 1st. And the next game right after that is Persona 3 Reload, and that game is looking incredible. A lot of people are very excited for Persona 3 Reload. And then on top of that, you've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that comes out at the end of the month, and people are just psyching themselves up and getting ready for that. From what I've seen online, some of the chatter via Twitter and social media in different places when it comes to videos that I've watched on all these games, it seems like Final Fantasy seems to be at the top of the list. Then Persona is like pretty close or right there. And then Granblue just simply isn't getting talked about as much. So I'll say this, don't sleep on Granblue. There is a demo out there for you to pick up and try out the game, and I highly recommend going in, trying out the story mode, adjusting the settings when it comes to the graphics and performance. I suggest doing performance mode, and then after you beat the single player story and your eyes get kind of acclimated to the action, check out the questing mode, because they let you switch characters up. You can mix and match any characters that you want. They all have different classes and abilities, and there's different play styles. So if you don't like using a sword the whole time, there's a gunslinger in the game, somebody that just shoots the whole time, and that might be more of your play style. Or there's someone that has a great sword or a lance or a magic user. So there's different styles and different types. For my playthrough, I only really did the gunslinger, and I think I did lance, and I also did the main character with the sword, but there's even more to do. Mix and match the party team members, try out what playstyle is best for you, what characters are best for you, and I think that's where the depth in this game is really going to come, with checking out the questing mode and trying out different characters and taking that back to the single player in the story and seeing what goes on there and how those characters work. So I think that is going to be one of the big things about this game that's exciting for fans, exciting for people who actually played Granblue beforehand. But if you're into action RPGs, if you're into pure action RPGs, this could be a game that kind of comes out of nowhere for you and surprises you how much you like it. So highly recommend to check out the demo and get ready, because Granblue Fantasy Relink is coming out February 1st. I will be playing, and of course I'll have a review or a follow-up or a super first impressions video when it comes to when the game comes out, or I'll be streaming it. That's gonna wrap it up for this video here, guys. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and look out for more JRPG, RPG content and more right here on PlayerEssence. We're just getting started for the year, so I recommend that. And of course, drop a comment below. What are you most looking forward to when it comes to Granblue Fantasy Relink or the RPGs coming out on any system? Comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.